Welcome to the Inspire and Learn series. We are the Multi-Hull Group, a multi-award winning dealership in Australia, specialising in catamarans. Join us as our expert team teach you all about anchoring, docking, rigging, sail trim, maintenance, and so much more, so you can build confidence in your catamaran handling ability. In this episode, Joe Fox will use the Lagoon 42 to explain how to leave the dock with and without a springer, and also demonstrate how easy these vessels are to manoeuvre short-handed and in confined spaces around a marina. Enjoy.
So the first thing we're going to look at this morning is we're going to spring the boat off the dock using a spring line. Now this is something that you'd normally do on a monohull to manoeuvre off your berth, but it's also very easy to do on a catamaran. And we'll demonstrate that using the line setup that we've got here and the twin engines that we've got at the helm. So we have our stern line, our bow line, and our stern spring. Now it's just these three lines which we're going to worry about. So we're very lucky here on this Lagoon 42, we've got a permanent fender along the dock. So that means we don't need to be playing with the fenders during the manoeuvre. If you don't have a permanent fender on your dock, that's not a problem. For this manoeuvre, we just need to make sure that we've got one very specifically positioned just at the back here, so that as we spring off the dock, the back corner of the boat here doesn't come in contact with the dock. So it's really important to understand when you're manoeuvring a catamaran like we are in today's conditions, there's not much wind, but we've got a few things going on with the controls. So we've got two engine throttles and we've also got a wheel. The best thing you can do to simplify the whole operation is to remove the wheel. So what we've done down here, we've locked the wheel completely so we can forget about that, and we're just going to operate the boat using the two throttles. A really good trick that we use when teaching our clients how to drive the boat is to hold your thumbs like this. So if I push the starboard engine forwards, the front of the boat is going to go to the left. If I pull the starboard engine backwards, the front or the back of the boat is going to go to the left. So it's quite a clever trick to hold your thumbs here and to just figure out what's going to happen to the boat when you do the throttle movement. All ready to go. I've got both my engines running, and as we mentioned before, I've got my bow line, my stern line and my stern springer set up. So what I'll do now is I'll just ask the crew member to drop the bow line and the stern line, and then it's just the springer holding us on the dock. Okay, so both our bow line and our stern line are off. And now with my stern spring attached to my port side, I'm just going to put my starboard engine in reverse. And what that's going to do, that's going to pull the starboard side of the boat backwards. And on the port side we've got the spring that's going to stop us moving backwards. And what we're doing now, you can see the bow of the boat started to move out, and you'll see that from the drone as well very clearly. And depending on how much wind there is now, that depends on the angle that I'm going to give this. So if there was a strong 15-20 knot wind blowing me onto the dock, I would give myself a really good angle off the dock so that when I put both engines into forwards, I don't end up dragging my stern down the dock. So I'll tell the crew member now to drop the line on the back if you can. So that line is off now. Now I've got a good angle and I just put both engines into forwards. And now we've got an angle on the dock and we're just moving forwards away from it, probably at about 65 degrees, I'd say. And now we're clear from the dock and I can begin manoeuvring as you would to avoid moorings and fenders. So last time we manoeuvred off the dock, we had our bow line and our stern line and our stern spring. Now what I'm going to demonstrate now is, because we're on a catamaran and we've got two engines and they're very far apart, we don't actually need to use the stern spring at all. Because by feathering the engines and matching the revs, I can ensure that the boat pivots on the same fender that we saw at the back, but pivots in a way where it doesn't move forward and it doesn't move back, and the bow will manoeuvre out really nicely to give me that angle to drive away from the dock. So in order to do this, I'll put my port engine into forwards and the starboard engine into reverse. And now you'll see from the drone that the boat is starting to turn. And what I'm doing now is I'm just feathering the power on the engines so that the back of the boat isn't moving forwards or backwards, not scraping along the dock, and we're just using that pivot point on the back of the boat on the port side to manoeuvre off the dock. Now you'll see from the drone we've got that really good angle, so what I can do now is I can put both throttles into forwards and drive away from the dock. With manoeuvring a boat like this, it's quite a heavy boat. You've got to bear in mind that your actions from the throttles are not going to have an instant effect on the boat. So we're moving forwards at about 2 knots now. There's a boat in front of me, so I need to stop. I go into neutral and then put both engines into astern in tick over, but we're still moving forwards. So I need to give a fair amount of revs on the engines, and you can see we're slowing down 1.1 knots now. And I want to keep the engines like that until we've actually stopped. So now we've stopped and I can go back to neutral, but I have to give it quite a bit in reverse to stop the boat because the boat has a lot of momentum forwards. Once I'm stopped, we're on a catamaran, so it's very manoeuvrable, and you'll see this now. If I put my port engine into forwards and my starboard engine into reverse, you can see the boat starts to spin. And as long as I'm balancing the engines, so not giving more on one or more on the other, keeping the revs the same but in opposite directions, I can actually spin the boat on a sixpence. And you'll see that from the drone now. We're not moving backwards or forwards, but we're just turning on the spot. Now this is really useful in a close quarter situation like a Marina or something like that. So if I just put the sticks the other way now, I can stop the turn, and for the last 30 seconds we haven't gone forwards or backwards, we've just turned on the spot. Well, what I'll do now is I'll drive into quite a constricted place and I'll talk you through what I'm doing on the throttles, and I'll just drive in, I'll turn the boat 180 degrees and then drive out. So we're just heading down this arm of the Marina. It is quite confined. I've got about 1.5 meters to 2 meters on either side of the boat. The slower is the better. So I'm gliding in at 0.7 of a knot, so nice and slow. And in order to make the turn in this tight spot, I've got to bear in mind the boat's already moving forwards. So I'm not going to give the boat any more forward thrust. But what I'm going to do is put my port engine in reverse. And you can see that down here, that's going to pull the port side of the boat backwards. And what that does, that's slowing the boat down. But that also, it's turning the boat as well. So we're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. And you can see now the boat's turning quite nicely. And now we've stopped moving forwards, I can put my starboard into forwards as well. And like we were doing just previously, the boat's now not going forwards or backwards, it's just turning on the spot really nicely. Looking at the bows, we've probably got 1.5 meters at the front and 4 meters at the back. So I know that I can use a bit of reverse if I need to get myself out of trouble. So again, I'm just balancing the throttles here, trying to avoid moving backwards or forwards, just spinning in my own boat length. So when I'm pointing where I want to point, both engines into neutral, and then I split the sticks the other way, so port forwards, starboard aft, and you'll see the boat's now stopped turning. We're pointing at the exit, so I'm now going to put both engines into forwards. So you've got to imagine when you're driving like this, we're not using the wheel. It's a bit like driving a bobcat or a mini digger or an army tank. So you've got to imagine we've got tracks on either side of the boat. And if I push the starboard one forwards, that's going to push the starboard side of the boat forwards. If I pull the port one back, that's going to pull the port side of the boat backwards. Now I'm out of the Marina and I want to point over there because it's very shallow over there. So split the sticks again, slowing the boat right down, and I spin the boat on the spot. Not moving backwards or forwards. I turn, put the throttles into neutral, and when I'm pointing where I want to go, I put them both into forwards and we move forwards. Guys, thanks for joining us. We do hope you enjoy our Inspire and Learn series, and it would be great if you did want to learn more and pick up more tips and tricks on operating your catamaran or lagoon. Do give us a follow on YouTube, subscribe, and you can get updates to everything we do.
Join us for part 2, where Joe shows us how to safely park your catamaran. See you then!